Now, you may notice that as you begin this program, a lot of things that you didn't know that you know will become apparent to you. And the things that you know that you don't know will also become apparent to you. And the learnings that you'll receive in this training will be that much more important and that much more valuable to you, because now you're going to see the things that you didn't know that you can see. Now, this training is rather simple in nature, and there'll be things that are different, things that you may have never heard of. But now as you consider them, they become interesting and easy for you to utilize in your daily life as well as all other areas of your life. Now, the usage of this material ought to be obviously very ecological and win-win. And as you utilize this recording and the learnings that you have from these recordings, you'll find that it's easy to achieve the things that you want in your life. Very important to keep in mind that this recording is not to be shared. And by listening to this recording and learning from this recording, you are understanding and agreeing to not sharing and keeping this audio only to yourself. Any sharing will violate your energy exchange with us, which can cause a disruptive, not so positive type of energy in your life, which is not what you want. You want to create win-win energy and fair exchange of energy. Therefore, utilize this recording only for yourself. And you also further agree to not share this with your spouse or your family or your friends or even fellow students, no matter what. And as you continue to listen to this audio, you agree to what I've just said, because your energy is very important and ought to be respected. Remember, the unconscious mind takes everything personally. So if you violate the energy exchange, your unconscious mind will perceive that as you're violating your own energy, which in this training you'll learn a lot about boundaries and how important it is to establish and train your unconscious mind to build a specific boundary. Now, these recordings will be released in exactly the way that you want to listen to, and the time frame and the timing is matched to the most optimal way to learn this training. Some of you will get this all together, some of you will get this in weekly release, some of you will get this in other ways. Let it be assigned to your unconscious mind that however you get these recordings, it's the best way for you. When you're listening to this recording, it's best to find a place that is quiet or semi-quiet. Now, it is totally okay if you're driving or flying or traveling. Please do remember there are parts of this training and recording that will induce trance. So while you're listening to those sections, keep in mind that your unconscious mind will give you a signal. Instruct your unconscious mind to do so, if you haven't already, and pay conscious attention to those moments so that you can be in a safe environment where you're not operating heavy machineries or driving, and that you're in a comfortable place where it's totally okay to just relax. There are several sections in this training. We'll be going through some very special patterns, such as quantum linguistics. How you can talk in such a way that it's easy to just resolve a problem, even in your language, just by speaking the individuals that are listening, and that includes you, may begin to find that just by considering what you're saying, the problem resolves itself. It's a powerful set of language and linguistic techniques. Now, what would happen if you learned this? Well, a lot of great things. What wouldn't happen if you learned this? Something to consider. Now, what wouldn't happen if you didn't learn this? Also something for you to consider. Now, what would happen if you didn't learn this? There are so many things to consider in this world that oftentimes we don't consider until now. One of the greatest sayings from Richard Bandler himself is that the greatest limitations is not found in the things that we want to do but can't. They're found in the things that we never considered doing. So just by the language and the linguistics that you'll use with quantum linguistics and what you'll learn in that section, you'll find that you'll be considering things that you never considered before, therefore eliminating the limitations that exist in our mind. Now, we don't teach this training sequentially. So sometimes you'll get some quantum linguistics here. Sometimes you'll get some strategies with it. Sometimes you'll get some other things. So keep that in mind. Just know that the order may not be in the way that you expect. Remember that this audio, some parts will be really fast, some parts will be really slow, depending on you. So if you decide that it's too slow, make it faster. If you think it's too fast, then slow it down. You don't have to listen to it at 1x speed. You can listen to it at 2x, 3x, whatever you want, or 0.5x. It is totally up to you how you want to take this training. Now, take a couple seconds, a couple minutes if you need to, pause this audio, and get into learning state. Now that you're in learning state, let's talk about responsibilities for change. Now, as many of you already remember, it's easy to change if you understand that change is all about the order and sequence of the internal representations in the mind. Then if you can change the order and sequence of this IR, you're able to change easily. So when you talk about responsibilities with someone, including yourself, you gotta think, okay, who is in charge of the change? Who's in charge of your IR? Who's in charge of your mind? And therefore, how you feel. And when you're able to realize, hey, change is within me. I can change. I am in charge of me. Then change becomes easy. As you also gotta think about, well, what is the responsibility to change? What does that mean? Remember, in Practitioner, we talk about this a lot. If you are 100% at cause for everything that happens in your life, now we're still not talking about, hey, you're responsible for everything in a total literal sense. But what if you can play a game of pretense, like you are actually in charge of everything in your universe, everything that's in your awareness? You would begin to notice the minute patterns that can cause a massive change. You'll begin to notice every single internal pattern and change that needs to occur to cause a external change. Now, what does that mean? Well, if one begins to say, hey, I'm not responsible for this or that, this person did it to me, then you'll use your unconscious mind's ability to delete, distort, and generalize things into that category so that you don't ever have to take responsibility. And it's easy for you to not find how you can succeed and not find the reasons and the cause and all of the patterns in between. Now, that's not what you want. What you want is to take 100% responsibility, even if it's just a game of pretense, just to pretend that you're totally in charge of every single little thing. And you gotta do it even with things that seem to have nothing to do with you. Let's pretend, let's say we live on an island. And there are many, many people that live on this island. It's a beautiful island. And let's say we're all safe and healthy, and there's a hurricane that comes through. If I were taking 100% responsibility for everything that happens in my reality, I would even begin to wonder, what's going on inside of me? What did I do? What caused this hurricane? Now, of course, you may say, that's crazy. That's crazy to think about that. I'm not saying you're in charge of your weather. What I'm saying is, you are in charge of your reality, and to create more control and more mastery in your life, it's important to allow your unconscious mind to not delete or distort or generalize the things that can help you get to the next level by becoming aware of everything that is internal and how it relates to the external world. The true mastery begins here, where you begin to notice everything that's inside and how it's causing things to occur outside of you, even when it seems that it has nothing to do with what's going on outside. Because you'll notice that when you begin to play this game of pretense, you begin to notice those minute things that really matter. Remember, it's not the things that you want to do that you can't that limit you, but the things that you never considered doing. And as you begin to consider doing them, such as taking responsibility for things that seem to have nothing to do with you, and I know I'm repeating myself here, but it's very important, you begin to find the key to altering your life in such a dramatic way, in the most positive way. So, let's say someone comes to you, let's say in your business, one of your employees, or maybe you're seeing people in your relationships. Let's say maybe it's your family member, or maybe you're in consulting and you have a client that comes to you, or maybe you train people in, real estate or music or anything you do. whatever it is, let's say someone comes to you and they say, hey, this happened and I'm taking a lot of responsibility. And I'm taking, I think I'm 99% responsible for this. Is this person taking 100% responsibility? No, even when it's 1% off, your mind begins to distort and delete things. And that 1%, just like on an airplane, if you were to be 1% off and you go 700 miles, you're way off. You're way, way off. Even if you were 1%, 1 degree off, right? You're way off. Now, of course, you're safe and healthy, and you know that it's important to focus on what you want. Focusing on what you want works way better when you take 100% responsibility. So, now one more thing. Someone will say, hey, I'm totally focusing on what I want. Let's say one of your business partner or member or your teammate comes to you and say, hey, I'm taking total responsibility, and I'm focusing on what I want. Because you have been sharing with me NLP and the learnings that you've had, I'm grateful. I'm taking all the responsibility. You should notice that their result match what they focus on. If they tell you, hey, I'm focusing on what I want and I'm taking action, but I don't know why that I'm not getting the result I want. Well, it's simple. They're not really focusing on what they want. They're not focusing on what they want completely. Because sometimes people they are focusing on what they want for a moment, and then another moment they're not. They're like, oh man, I didn't get what I want. I've been focusing on what I want. Just the fact that they've been telling you, or they started telling you, I have been focusing on what I want, but I didn't get what I want. That alone is an IR, an indicator that in their IR, they're not focusing on what they want because they are focusing on them not getting what they want, right? That minute thing. They got to take responsibility for it too. And so do you. You want to take responsibility for getting or not getting the results you want. And it's just feedback. It is just feedback. Because all you have to do is learn how you can change the order and sequence of your IR so that you can get the results you want. The focusing on what you want is really about a mastery in your IR. If you're not seeing pretty images, happy images, and feel good, and hear good things, then tweak your IR, because this is where it all begins. Allow yourself to do the change in your IR, and take 100% responsibilities. Now let's talk about boundaries for a second. Boundaries is a very important topic because when you are able to see that all problems are contained within a boundary, in NLP we understand that, hey, boundaries is what contains the problem. So if you blow the boundary or the boundaries, you're able to actually get rid of the problem. So instead of going from the outside in, you're going from the inside out. And what I mean by that is we're going to teach you how to use inductive language. Inductive thinking, so that you can get rid of the boundary of the problem from the inside out. Imagine being able to solve a problem from the inside out instead of the outside in. It's very, very powerful and much faster. So let's talk about what that means. And by talking about what that means, let's begin by talking about deduction or deductive thinking. So let's say someone says, since I can't drive any car, I won't be able to drive a Cadillac or a BMW. That's deductive thinking. Right? And some people say in society that's really the key of being smart. But really, when you think about it, it's not just about being able to chunk down. It's also about being able to chunk up. Because your ability to chunk up will dictate how much money you can make. Let me repeat that. The more money you want to make, the more you gotta be able to chunk up. Therefore, inductive thinking. So it's not just in the details. It's about the big pictures as well. And your flexibility, as we call it in practitioner training, your chunk muscle, right? Your ability to chunk up and down is crucial in this training as well. So think about inductive learning here. If you can learn NLP, you can learn anything. That's inductive thinking. If I can drive a Porsche, I can drive any other car. Now, regardless if that statement is true or not, that's inductive thinking. That's inductive linguistics right there. So what other examples? What other examples, right? I would encourage that you sit down and begin to think, okay, what else can I use inductive thinking on? What if you begin to think like this? What if you say, hey, if I can successfully learn Milton model, I can learn all of the patterns in NLP easily. And if I can learn NLP, I can learn anything. So use inductive thinking and solve problems.